Hi guys, welcome once again to the Coffee and Heroes YouTube show, your one-stop shop for all the comics news, TV news, movie news, computer games news, whatever else captures my fancy really. So yeah, recording this at the end of the first week of October, so nice busy week in store, so it was. Some good releases came out, some big releases. It was always going to be a slightly quieter week after the release of 3 Jokers, but at the same time we had a really good week this week. It was great to see some new faces through the door. The Belfast City Council are starting to spotlight stores in Smithfield, and they're actually giving each one their own little spotlight and going into details what they're about. And you know, we had a few new subscribers to the page, the social media stuff, a few new subscribers to the podcast. So a really good week all around, I have to say. You know, it's interesting, Smithfield does have some really good stores, and myself, Vicky, Keith and Roddy were chatting today in the store. See, if a zombie apocalypse ever happened, Smithfield would not be a bad place. You could put yourself in our store, so you have all the reading material you need. You have plenty of snacks, plenty of caffeine. It's well barricaded with the windows and so forth. But even Smithfield itself, you've got an army store in there, so you've got all your supplies. You've got a cafe in there, so you've got your food sorted. You've got a store in there that sells swords and weapons, so they're sorted. Boxing store, yeah. Bring on the zombie apocalypse. Maybe I shouldn't say that too much, actually, given the way the world is. But yeah, really good week for us, as I say. Been a good week as well, just getting stuff recorded for the podcast. It's been really good that we had... First of all, we got another review show. It was another fortnightly review show, so that was the 3rd and 4th reviews week of September. Then we released our Clayman interview. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to him again, get some insight into Batcat, get a few other bits and pieces story from him, you know, his interest in doing a DC Marvel crossover, for example. And we just a really good chat with him. We did get into a little bit of a dispute at one point, and those who were at the signing a year ago, how quickly a year goes, may remember that he challenged me when I slightly mocked Rob Liefeld, because he's a massive fan of Rob's. We found out that Clay hadn't read a classic of some kind. I'll not spoil what it is. Go listen to the podcast to find that out. But we basically agreed that in 3 or 4 months' time, we're going to sit down and do another podcast. He's going to have read the thing he hadn't read, and I have to read this. Rob Liefeld, Marvel Omnibus. So plenty to get into here. Apparently this is his glory years, shall we say, with the Heroes Reborn stuff, with New Mutants, with Deadpool, all that kind of stuff. So I will make it my mission to read it and give an informed opinion. But it'll be really good to chat to Clay again. And he said that it'd be good a few months down the line, because then we can actually chat Batcat properly. Due out in December, so make sure you get your pre-orders in. Going to be a big title, I think. So as I say, we released that podcast out there. And then last night we recorded our 30th of September reviews podcast. So we're actually going to be fully up to date, and the content's going to be going back to being weekly. You know, we struggled a little bit there for a while getting monthly reviews in, and they were long, packed shows. Certainly the one last night, we went into a lot of detail, like real deep dive reviews, which was really fun. You know, our 3 picks of the week, I'll give it away now, because let's be honest, it's going to be on the on all the timestamps that we do for the podcast. But for me, it was 3 Jokers number 2. For Roddy, it was Department of Truth number 1. And then for Keith, it was Philadelphia number 8. And some really good deep dives. It was a real pleasure to sort of chat those titles in detail. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be going up in the next couple of days. And then we're back to regular podcasting next week. We do have a couple more creator interviews lined up as well. A couple of writers, a couple of artists. Again, it's the amazing thing about the comics community is that creators are so open. They want to talk about their work. They want to engage with the fans. They want to get people excited about what's coming out. So I'll really look forward to having a few more good conversations with creators, you know. So keep an eye out for that, as I said. So yeah, from this week, when it comes to my favourite titles of the week, I have to give you a slight... I have to basically admit one thing, a slight admission here. I've only read half my pull list this week. As I say, with all those podcasts and busy week in the store, I fell a little bit behind in the reading this week, but I'm going to be up to date soon. But there are 3 titles that stick out straight away that I have managed to get through. 2 of them are big nostalgic trips for me, and the other one was the culmination of a big storyline. So unsurprisingly, you'll be shocked, I know, Batman 100 is on that list. I think it's worth taking out of the bag and board, first of all, just because it's such a glorious wraparound cover. So this is just the cover A Of course, me being me, I have the cover B and the 1-25 variant and all sorts. But if you look here, you've got that great sort of Batman cover with all the Bat family and so forth in there. But what's great about this as well is it's a great wraparound cover. So you have all the Joker stuff and then all the Batman's Rogues Gallery as well. Really satisfying ending the Joker War, I thought. This issue, you could almost jump onto it as a new reader, because the first 2/3 of it are the culmination of Joker War, and there's a bit of exposition at the start that'll catch you up on everything that's going on. But then there's 2 further stories in there. There's a story in the middle which is focusing on Clown Hunter, a new character that Tynion has created. And then the last story, I'll not go into any spoilers whatsoever, but it was fantastic. It's actually my favourite part of the issue, the last story out of the 3. And with it, it has the to be continued in 2021. So great, exciting stuff ahead in Batman, as there always is. Or at least I always get excited about it anyway. The other 2 titles for me that really stood out this week were, as I say, both slight nostalgic trips for me. The first one being American Vampire 1976. American Vampire is what introduced me to Scott Snyder, even before the New 52 Batman, even before, we get into all that good stuff, and then led to Metal and Justice League and all that kind of thing. American Vampire was his horror title he did at Vertigo, which is now essentially DC Black Label. But this is the first new American Vampire series since American Vampire Second Cycle. And this one apparently is going to be the culmination of the whole American Vampire arc. For those who don't know, American Vampire is essentially a horror title. It's all about how vampires have always been there through the ages, influencing American history behind the scenes. So it starts off in the Old West, and then you've got arcs that take place during World War I. You've got arcs that take place during the Greaser 50s. You've got arcs that take place during the space race. And then with this one, we're into the 70s now as well. Fantastic first issue. I'm delighted to say that with it being creator-owned, Snyder on writing, and also co-creator of the series, Raphael Albuquerque, is on art and just absolutely nails it. Fantastic. You could easily jump into it as a new reader. It is a new #1. It is designed for you to get into. But at the same time, I do think you'll get more out of it if you've read the previous American Vampire stuff. So really, really good stuff. And then the last one, it's interesting that this jumped to the top of my pile. As I say, I'm only sort of 8 titles in my pull list so far, given that I've read it from start to finish before. But this week showed the launch of the Walking Dead Deluxe. So this one, we've chatted about it before. This is going to be the entire Walking Dead run reprinted in single issue form, but it's going to be coloured the whole way through it. So Walking Dead was always notorious for being a black and white comic. It works in black and white brilliantly because it sort of reflects the darkness of that world. But at the same time, I think at the start that Image weren't really wanting to take a big, massive risk on a zombie book. They didn't think it would do so well. So keeping it black and white was a way to keep the cost down. Now it's made all the money in the world, taking over TV shows, everything. They can throw money at it. So for those who've never seen The Walking Dead before, this will be a great introduction because, as I say, you can see there, it's just beautifully coloured. Traditionally before it was black and white, but they've done a really, really great job with colouring. I mean, there's some great iconic pages in here, really well known to Walking Dead readers that have then been coloured. And this was just like a big, warm hug of nostalgia, it really was. Keith made a good point today in store, actually. We were chatting with a couple of the regulars about it, and they were saying they didn't know whether to jump on board because it's a big commitment. Walking Dead ran 193 issues. So with this being released fortnightly, it's going to take 8 years to get through this all. I'm going to be 45, believe it or not, by the time this finishes. Hopefully the world's still here, given what's going on. But what's really good about it is, yes, it is a massive commitment, but it's a massive commitment knowing that the story is quality. Where as comic readers, we are on a lot of ongoing series, whether it's Batman, whether it's Amazing Spider-Man, whether it's Daredevil, Superman, whatever. But in the case of this, we know this is going to be 193 issues of quality because The Walking Dead is genuinely fantastic. The TV show's a bit up and down. It has its great moments. It has its dud moments. But the comic, I don't think it ever lets up. It is pure quality all the way through. So if you've never read The Walking Dead before, I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend jumping on it in this way because I know some people were actually put off by the black and white, believe it or not. I suppose it's sort of like being put off black and white movies from the past because you're so used to colour. Give this a go if you're even the slightest passing interest in Walking Dead. Get on this. So thought that was absolutely wonderful. As I say, I've tons more to get through this week, so those are just the ones that stand out so far. Obviously, with it being new releases, I was always going to read Batman first. Let's be honest. If you don't know that by now, you'll never know that about me. So, what we will do is jump onto the invoice for next week. As always, I always like to go through what's coming out, give you guys a heads up for what to look forward to next week. You know, I like to reiterate it every time that comic releases are all over the place at the moment. They're not, the release lists are not always matching up to what's out across the world. So when I get my invoice again, it's just that it's the only way to guarantee what's coming next week. As ever, the first question to ask is Deceased on here? No. Not number 3, not number 4. And to be honest, it's getting slightly concerning now because it really has gone on for a while. I did drop an email to Diamond there on Friday, just asking for an update on the issues. You know, it's even just an idea of when we can expect it, because it's such a AAA title that we all look forward to. It's a title that is a big seller in the store. So I always want to keep people informed as to when it will be coming out. So they said they're going to get back to me. I believe they said that its original shipping date was the 2nd of September. And now we're in the start of October. So we should have had 2 issues. And it's terrible these days trying to avoid spoilers. So again, I'll keep you guys informed. If and when Deceased is on the invoice, I'll not wait until this YouTube show to let you know. It'll be all over social media just so people know to expect it. But there is some great stuff to look forward to, as I say, next week. So we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 50, which is following up the rather great issue 49. We've got Avengers 37 coming next week. Batman's Grave number 11, so we're coming to the end of that 12-issue miniseries. Just one more to go after that. We've got Cable number 5, which is an X of Swords tie-in. X of Swords is slowly creeping the charts. Not a lot of people seem to sign up for it in advance, but I think word's getting around about how good it's been so far, so people are starting to jump on that. Got a really great indie title launching next week called Commanders in Crisis by Steve Orlando. I say it looks really good. I've actually read it in advance. I read a digital PDF. Don't kill me. The only reason I did so is because we had a guest reviewer on the website, Stephen, who did a really, really good review for this, hyping it up, giving you just enough details to get you excited about it, but not spoiling anything. So check out the website for that, just coffeeandheroes.com, and you'll see the review for Commanders in Crisis in the articles. We've got the return of Dark Knight's Death Metal. We've obviously been getting lots of one-shot tie-ins recently, Multiverse's End, the guidebook, Legends of the Dark Knights, etc. But we're now back to the core title, so number 4 is coming next week. We've got DC The Doomed and the Damned, so that's a Halloween anthology story, so that's going to be 7 issues. Detective Comics is back next week, 10/28. We've got Doomsday Clock, the complete collection is now coming out, so far with Doomsday Clock, they've released 2 hardcovers, part 1, part 2. They're releasing the complete edition next week, and it'll look perfect on the bookshelf beside Watchmen. I say that, of course, but I'm waiting to be able to put a Absolute edition of Doomsday Clock right there beside Absolute Watchmen. So I'll hold off in the meantime. But if you're not waiting for the Absolute, that's the best way to get everything all together. You've got Green Lantern Season 2 coming next week on number 8 of that, and some nice Grant Morrison madness in there. We've got Marvel Zombies Resurrection number 3. Been digging that so far. First 2 issues were pretty damn great. We've got Once in Future number 12. I'll always recommend Once in Future. What a title. Probably the biggest number 1 next week, I would say, is Rorschach number 1. That is Tom King's new title with Jorge Fornes, which is going to be exploring Rorschach. I believe it's going to have links to Doomsday Clock. It's going to have links to the Watchmen TV show. If ever you needed an excuse to watch that masterpiece of a TV show, now is the time. But you don't really need an excuse because it's awesome. We've got 7 Secrets number 3, so really digging the Tom Taylor indie title. Back to Tom King again, we've got Strange Adventures number 6 hitting next week. We've got Superman 26 coming next week. What else have we got here? We've got Warhammer 40k, Marneus Calgar. So this is Marvel taking over the Games Workshop licenses and actually doing Warhammer next week. And it's going to be from Kieran Gillen, so Once in Future as well next week. So 2 big things to look forward to from him. What else have we got? We've got Wonder Woman 764. I've been really enjoying that since Mikel Janin took over the art. And then just to culminate the X of Swords stuff, you've got X of Swords Handbook there as well. So some cracking stuff to look forward to next week. I do wish that Deceased was among it, guys, but I keep chasing it and it's gonna come out at some point. But unfortunately we need to be patient with it. It's real frustrating. But anyway, so yeah, that's next week, and that's sort of all the store maintenance, shall we say, done. So I'll just go into a few stories from this week that really caught my eye. There's a lot of things to look forward to here. Some great comics news, there's some great TV news, one or two little movie bits and pieces coming out as well. The first thing up is actually a comics announcement, and this only came out, yesterday, and I think comic stores are still getting used to it, but obviously they've been getting ready. Here's that man again, Kieran Gillen. They've been getting ready to release a new Eternals series by Kieran Gillen and Esad Ribic, I believe. And we're really looking forward to this. The pre-orders are pretty strong for it. But the thing about it is that the Eternals movie got pushed back. And I think one is sort of going to feed the other here. So they've decided to actually push back the release of the Eternals issue 1. Now, they're not putting it back quite as far as the movie. The movie got moved a full 10 months, or full year, actually, now that I think about it. But the Eternals comic is going to be pushed back 2 months. Originally due in November, it's going to be moved back until January. So maybe give them a little bit of time to polish it off and so forth. So I'm really looking forward to Eternals. It's something I don't know an awful lot about. I'm looking forward to the movie because it's a Marvel movie, so it's no doubt going to be interesting. So it is a bit of a shame to see that news, but hopefully it'll be worth waiting for. We got some news as well through Grant Morrison was having a couple of interviews this week, and he announced that probably about 2 years ago, I would say, but he announced that he was going to be doing a sequel. It was 2017, believe it or not, so it was quite a while ago, that he was going to do a sequel to Arkham Asylum. So Arkham Asylum, out in 1989, one of the single best things you'll ever read. Let's see. Of course, the absolute of it is just here. So Arkham Asylum, available in various different iterations. Of course, I love my absolutes. Just look at the artwork on this. It's just absolutely glorious. It's one of the best Batman and most grown-up Batman stories you'll ever read. So, and it had, it was written by Grant Morrison, but art was by Dave McKean. Now, Dave McKean wasn't planning to do the art for the sequel. It was going to be Chris Burnham, who Grant Morrison's worked with on Batman Incorporated. He recently did the artwork for Detective 1027, Grant Morrison's short story, and that, which was called Detective 26. You know, there is a part of me, I would love a sequel to this, you know, but at the same time, that McKean artwork, to me, McKean is just as important to Arkham Asylum as Grant Morrison is. You know, it's just so dark and scratchy, and if you've never read Arkham Asylum, you have to read it. It's probably one of the holy trinity of Batman titles that are aimed specifically at a grown-up audience. You know, I would put this beside Killing Joke and Dark Knight Returns in terms of seminal works. It also made Grant Morrison a millionaire pretty much overnight. Such things are important, of course. But I think it sold something like 600,000 copies worldwide in like its first week or something. So obviously it's available in other formats, not just the absolutes, but you know me at this point. So he was saying how he's put it on the back burner now, but he will return to it at some point. So just to quote him here, so I kind of wrote 26 pages of it and it got shelved because the television work was taking up so much time. But again, I never say never because I think those 26 pages were pretty good. I did enjoy doing a short story with Chris Burnham, the artist recently in Detective 1027, and it gave me the taste again because he was going to draw the second Arkham Asylum. But no, I had a story. It's very, very different from the original book. It was more of a Philip K. Dick thing. It's still there. It's still one of those things that will happen. But in a weird way, I don't mind this delay because the reason is because he is currently several drafts into the adaptation of The Invisibles, which is one of his seminal works. The Invisibles, I have all the single issues of it, and I will be honest, when I first read it, it was a bit of a slog for 2/3 of it. And then there was just this moment in The Invisibles where it all dropped and it all made sense, and you just had this real moment of, now it makes sense. So I love the idea of it being turned into a TV show and maybe being a bit easier to digest, I suppose. You know, the comic medium can be very dense at times, and with TV they tend to simplify it for a wider audience. So I look forward to an adaptation of that. It is a favourite of mine. But yeah, if you do get it, there's a lovely big omnibus of it. It's like this thick. It's massive. It was written during that Vertigo golden era, very much. You know, your Why the Last Man era, Constantine, Sandman, all that stuff. So, worth keeping an eye for The Invisibles. Shame about Arkham Asylum, the sequel, but hopefully that gives him more time just to convince Dave McKean to come back. So what else have we got? Donny Cates is back again, hyping up stuff. I mean, Donny Cates is the master of hype, and he's hyping up already what's going to happen after King in Black. You know, King in Black is due this December. It's undoubtedly going to be one of the biggest titles of the year. We're all looking forward to it. Pre-orders are strong, looks sick, looks great. But already he's basically talking about Venom 200, which is going to be coming out just after King in Black as well. So the first issue after King in Black will be legacy numbering Venom 200. So they've got a few interesting things in mind for that. The issue right after King in Black is Venom 200, said Cates. King in Black is earth-shattering and insane, and it's oversized. It's filled with things that I've been imagining in my head since I was a kid. And right after that, Rand and I are doing issue 200. It's going to be a really, really special issue. It's going to be the beginning of something new, the beginning of something you've never seen before from Eddie, that you've never seen before in the dynamic between him and his family and his symbiote. It's a really special issue that will set the stage for the next 200 to 2,000 to 2 million. Jeez, talk about hype. That man knows how to hype a title. But yeah, Venom will continue to be a big seller in the store. Cates and Stegman are killing it on that. So I'll be curious to see how long they actually stick on the title. It's already been a couple of years at this point, so we'll see. So on to a bit of TV news. It really was a mixed bag this week, I have to say. Similar to there being a delay in the Arkham Asylum sequel, Netflix has hit pause on its Magic Order series. Magic Order was the first release from Image Comics that was in collaboration with Netflix. So Mark Millar, he sold his Millar World label and its entire library to Netflix a couple of years ago. A Magic Order was always going to be the first one. It was basically a grown-up version of Harry Potter, but with overtones of Goodfellas as well. If you've never read the book, I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of those ones that we try our best to always keep in stock. It follows 5 families of magicians sworn to protect our world for generations and must battle an enemy who's picking them off one by one. Brilliant adult-based storytelling, and I was really looking forward to a TV show for this. So it's a shame to see it hit pause, but I suppose the way the world is right now, it's not too surprising. Unfortunately, everything keeps bloody getting cancelled. You know, as Vicky said when she saw this news, because she's a massive Magic Order fan, she's like, screw 2020. On the plus side, on the TV news, so HBO Max has officially handed out a 10-episode order for the Green Lantern TV show. And it's going to be written by Seth Grahame-Smith, who wrote the Lego Batman movie, and also co-written by Arrow co-creator Mark Guggenheim. So the series is going to take place across a span of several decades and depict the adventures of multiple Lanterns, including Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz, and the first Green Lantern himself, Alan Scott. It'll also include fan favourite characters like Kilowog, characters like Sinestro. It is interesting, conspicuous by their absence are John Stewart and Hal Jordan. Maybe there's some movie plans there. We'll see. I still stand by Green Lantern in 2011. I think it's a better movie than most people remember. Not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely better than people remember. Continuing on the TV side of things, so there was the first teaser this week for Robert Kirkman's Invincible series. So this was Robert Kirkman's sort of deconstruction of superhero comics. It went for 144 issues, kicked off in 2003. And in a weird way, it's almost the forgotten, despite being that long, it's the forgotten Robert Kirkman comic because it was coming out concurrently with The Walking Dead, which obviously got more press. I haven't read Invincible yet. You may see right there, there is an Invincible compendium. Keith lent it to me. I really planned to tuck into it before the show hits. But we've been talking about the show for a while. It's got a great quality cast. It has Kirkman's stamp all over it. The animation style looks really, really similar to the comic as well. And the trailer for it I thought was really, really great. So check it out if you haven't already. It's like a minute 20. Doesn't give away too much. I believe it's going to premiere on Amazon, and it's going to be early 2021. So plenty of time to actually read Invincible. I promise to, Keith. I promise. So yeah, check out the trailer for that if you haven't already. A couple of bits of movie news that caught the eye this week. We first of all had the news that Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be in Spider-Man 3. So this is going to continue the crossover scenarios with Spider-Man and the main level MCU. It's 50-50 here for me. You know, it's almost like they don't want Spider-Man to grow up at all in these movies. He seems to need a mentor in every movie he's in. You know, in the first one, it was Tony Stark. In the second one, he was dealing with, you know, Tony Stark's passing, and then it became Nick Fury. And then in this one, it's going to be Doctor Strange. I personally have my own theory that the only reason Doctor Strange is in this is because Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and he wants to dabble in the Spidey universe once more. Interesting enough, we had quite a few conversations about Spider-Man in the store this week. For me, the best one will always be Spider-Man 2. The worst one's Amazing Spider-Man 2, but don't tell Steve. So yeah, I like the crossover elements of these movies, but I hope it's more of a cameo appearance rather than him dominating the movie the way certainly Tony Stark did with the first one. Also, in terms of movies, they're getting ready to reboot the Resident Evil series. Come back, I promise it's interesting. The original Resident Evil games, they were always B-movie joys. They were always over-the-top acting, a bit cheesy, but quite horror-filled as well. And that's apparently what they're aiming for with this. So they have got a lot of the cast ready. And the cast is going to include people playing Claire Redfield, people playing Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Wesker. So it's all the characters from the game rather than creating brand new characters like they did with the Paul W. Anderson movies, which were created a new character called Alice at the time. But they've even said here, so the new effort restarts the Capcom game-inspired franchise with a darker tone that's much more horror, with the producers of this saying that the first two games of the series are the big influence. It's going to be a terrifying, visceral experience and a grounded human story about a small, dying American town. The story will unfold on a fateful night in Raccoon City in 1998, so they're even going back in time, which is good. The fictional Midwestern town that's the center of a bioweapon virus outbreak that destroys it and forever changes the country. So fantastic! If they can get the tone of this right and just aim for B-movie silliness, you know, we want to see the live action. You know, stop it! Don't open that door! You know, you were almost a Jill sandwich. All this classic Resident Evil stuff. Please just bring it to the movie. And then just one last thing to chat about that caught my eye this week was there is now going to be a 4K release for Lord of the Rings and also for the Hobbit trilogy. I've slightly mixed feelings on this. I may have talked on here before about it. Lord of the Rings, they're going to be, in both cases I should say, they're both going to be the extended editions and the original theatrical. To me, the original theatrical don't exist anymore. It is all about those extended editions. But Lord of the Rings is a movie, like, it was released, you know, early 2000s. You watch that in DVD, which is what I have. You know, I have these editions. I'll just reach forward here. You know, I have these editions of Lord of the Rings, and they are massively comprehensive. And I think that if you clean up the image a bit too much, it almost becomes fake looking. I struggled with The Hobbit because you could tell a lot of it was, you know, shot against a green screen or a blue screen. Some of the makeup looked a little bit ropey because you could just see the joins because, again, the image was so clear. Whereas with this, I like that it's a tiny bit grainy and rough and ready, and I think it suits the movie. But at the same time, I do know that Peter Jackson did oversee them remastering himself, so hopefully he's happy with it. So I don't know if they're going to get more money out of me for Lord of the Rings. As I say, I'm more than happy with my DVD editions, but that lure of 4K does it for me, I have to say. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I believe it is going to be, they were talking about November, December, I think. So I think a lot of the work is already done. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye out for. So that's going to do it for us this week on the Coffee and Hero Show. As ever, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Feel free to spread the word to anyone you think might be into this kind of stuff. Hit that old subscribe button. Spread the word. But yeah, really looking forward to the next few weeks in the store. Some really big releases coming in. We're looking forward to getting our big shipment of CGC titles back that we sent off. So something to look forward to there. And yeah, and really keep an eye out for those podcasts. We're really hitting our stride with those. Some great stuff in there at the moment. Not just traditional drunken fanboy chat. There's actually some well-reasoned, intelligent conversation, I promise. So yeah, hope you guys are safe out there. I hope you all have a good weekend. Look forward to catching you in the store soon. Take it easy.